Oh, hey. It's I think we're in the pre-show section of this week's Comic Industry Insiders Live. So hopefully you have all bookmarked us and are ready to go. At the top of the hour, we're going to get started specifically with the I don't know, subjects we're going to be covering this week. And talking to
There's just one
subject. This is really one thing. What up, Eddie Von B? How you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining us. And Chris, how you doing over there?
Hey, thanks for having us. I'm doing pretty good. About getting ready to go to Chicago tomorrow for C2E2.
Yeah, I'm out on Thursday, so I'm sticking around tomorrow to go to Charles Soule's band. They're going to perform here in New York, and then they're doing another performance there. So yeah,
they're doing a thing with Patton Oswalt's Minor Threats. They're doing a special event there.
Yeah,
and they also have a limited edition copy of their new book. I just saw in his newsletter 500 copies of a variant cover on special cards.
Oh yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Last year they did a Wish World, which was like a one shot for 8 Billion Genies, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that was New York though. No, that was never mind.
My mistake. Whenever I think of C2B2, I think of Charles, and I think of Eddie Campbell, Tim Seeley, Jill Thompson. I don't think Charles lives there, but he tends to go there a lot. And I remember getting 8 million genies there early before it went on sale.
Yeah, that's true. I think I've seen him there. I have a number of memories of seeing Charles in the lobby of the of that hotel. Yeah. That's how you keep track of memories in our world, is what lobby of which hotel you were in.
Yeah, that's very true. Hey, I see Charles LePage in the chat, and I see Gorilla Todd as well.
Hey, Gorilla Todd, what up? Gorilla Todd Comics, only comics about Gorilla Todd. It's a very niche of a niche. All right, I think we're getting into the countdown. Are you ready there, Brian? Because I think we're going to need every second we can to try and fit this narrative in.
You got it. Just got to import our slide deck.
Do you want me to play the video so Brian can get the slide deck ready?
That would be great if you got that magic. Yeah,
hit that, buddy. It's Atom Freeman. This is Comic Industry Insiders Live. Once again, our second week of doing this live broadcast of bringing you the week's news, which just in time we started this because each week seems to have its own chaos. This week is absolutely no exception, and I'm looking forward to digging in deep. First up, let's talk to my co-host for this show, Mr. Brian Garside from Managed Comics.
What's up, buddy? Hey, not much. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, we live in a world where you and I never see each other in person because our two countries are, we're like the Romeo and Juliet.
At war, yeah, that's right. we are the Romeo and Juliet of the comics industry.
We are the Romeo and Juliet of bald white guys who like to talk about comics. Right. And this week we do have a special guest, straight from Popverse, who I understand is on the right side of that border, Mr. Chris Arant. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I wanted to say thank you for coming on this week because, I know you to work very hard to stay as informed as we do on the machinations of the comic book industry. And man, do we need it this week. It was a tumultuous week inside of the comic book industry. And I want to begin at the top of this to begin with a sort of a TLDR. We're going to talk a lot about the machinations of the distribution of comics. We're going to probably talk quite a bit about we're going to talk a bit about tariffs and how they are affecting us. We're going to talk about the things that are affecting you in comic shops right now, you as publishers right now, you as creators right now, you as fans of comics. I think at the top of this, it's good to say that nearly every retailer I have spoken to in the last couple weeks is telling me that they are having a record-setting year. I've spoken to no less than 7 different retailers who have told me that their first quarter set records by double-digit growth. Sometimes over the fourth quarter of last year, one retailer told me it was double-digit growth over their biggest quarter ever. And this is a guy who's been around for decades. So all of this to say, yes, the world is in chaos. If you live in the United States, we have a federal government that seems determined to light everything on fire and just maybe to watch it burn, maybe to heat what's next. I don't really know. But I do know that comics seems to be one of the bright spots, and it seems to be one of the places people go for refuge. And we know that in times of turmoil, people go to their local comic shop. They want that connection. They need that community. And I think that you there who are watching us while you're setting up your shop for the regular Tuesday, you are doing the work that we all need. Guys, am I alone on this?
No, I totally agree. And it's funny because I've heard the same thing from a lot of our stores that things are up. And even there's a couple of them that said they're not necessarily up, but like things are moving in that direction. Like they're not like they're kind of even, but it's like there's forward momentum. There seems to be a lot of like anticipation and excitement right now. So yeah, I think you've said it best a couple times where you said like in times like this, people look for those comfort things, and comics are a comfort thing. Movies like Minecraft movie made a butt ton of money this weekend when people say that movies are dead, but it's a comfort thing, right? And it's also like a massive built-in audience.
We look for things that emotionally regulate us, the things that are stable, the things that we've counted on our entire lives. And for us on this call, and for many of you, and definitely for the audience that keeps comics going, it's comics. It's that regular weekly dose of narrative. You know, Chris, I'm sure you have a local comic shop that you are going to in times like this.
Yes, I actually have 3, even though I'm a small town. I feel very privileged. So yeah.
Well, thank you.
They all do a little bit different. Some sell a little more Magic the Gathering, some sell a little bit less. I play Magic, I buy comics. Each kind of treat it differently. Like I haven't asked to look at their accounting books, but they seem pretty excited about the potential for the year. Like trying not to think about the tariffs and price increases and things like that. But I think they feel pretty hopeful about the direction the content in the comics is going.
Yeah. I definitely believe that. With all that said, Brian, let's dig into this week's conversation, shall we?
Let's do it. So it's once again, what's going on with Diamond?
It does seem to be the theme
this week on the What's Going On with Diamond show. So our big story is really going to be around Alliance, Diamond, and Universal. There's a bunch of new developments there. We'll talk a little bit about the developments since the auction. Universal back in the running. We'll talk a little bit about Ad Populum, who they are. How has Alliance Distribution responded to Universal being back in the running? How should retailers plan? Which is really just, it's going to be the same slide every week, folks. We're just going to reiterate that sucker. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's next, and specifically what's next with you, Adam, because you got some cool stuff coming up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, Chris and I are going to be in the same place this week, so we're that in and of itself is going to be huge.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, before we get started, you should plug this little thing.
Hey, listen, Prana Direct Market Solutions. It's a company that I own where we work with comic book publishers, comic book retailers, comic book creators. Our job is to kind of give you the tools to succeed inside of the world of comic book publishing and the retail direct market. We do a weekly newsletter called the Prana Bullet. If you go to pranadm.com right now and click on the button that is highlighted, you will get you the very next one. It's really what we're doing here. It's just a quick bullet, send you into the weekend. This is what you missed. This is how we're thinking about it. Here's the data that we have. And we have a lot of really fascinating sales data that we're starting to get in through the various people who are contributing to the both POS sales data and the publishers that are participating. So please, would love to have you on board.
Do you recognize the screen, Adam?
I do. This is
this is your new website. This
my
isn't
new
even
website.
Yeah, right.
This is my new
Coming
sexy
soon. Coming soon, folks.
We're working on it. Yes, so new developments in the Diamond bankruptcy saga. This thing never ends. And so this week we thought what we would do is go backwards a little bit. Start from the beginning, give you a sort of a narrative that builds up and allows you to see how we got to where we are. And also it's just a good story. Like this thing just never stops developing. Just when you think it's over and we're going to get back to stability, some new zinger comes in. Once again, I want to stress, yes, this is fascinating. Yes, this is stressful for many of you, but comics themselves are doing really well. So focus on your business, focus on your customers. Don't let the drama take over too much. But that said,
and realize that this is going to be around for the long haul. Like this is not a story that's going to get solved next week. This is something that's going to happen, and it's going to take a while for this all to resolve. So it's business as usual for us as retailers, and we just got to kind of not let this overly distract us. But today, for the next 40 minutes, we can certainly distract you. Before we get started, I insist that we do a little bit of a disclaimer. Information presented in this content is based on publicly available sources. There are no insider sources that we're claiming or have. It includes Bleeding Cool, ICV2, the Comics Beat, and other reputable media outlets.
like Popverse.
Goal is to like Poppers. Our goal is to inform and educate our audience about developments in the comics industry. We make no claims beyond what's been publicly reported and do not intend to slander, libel, or misrepresent any individuals or organizations mentioned. All opinions expressed are for informational purposes.
So agree. So we want to introduce.
We have no money.
Yeah, don't bother suing us. We have comics money. So these are the players. We're going to tell you a story that involves what is Diamond Comics Distributors. It's this group of companies that were owned by Steve Jeppy and his family and Jeppy Enterprises. I think it was the name of the overarching umbrella.
Yeah, Jeppy Family Enterprises. Yeah,
Jeppy Family Enterprises. There you go. The bidders, we're talking now about two groups, but there were up to 30, I think, at one point that were in on this. But now it's kind of come down to these two titans that are slugging it out, and the debtors. So these are the people that are owed the money. We're going to get into a list of who's owed the most and who actually contributed to this narrative of machinations and trying to make sure that they are doing their best for their companies inside of this drama. Anyway, these are the players of this little saga.
Take a screen grab of this image and share it around with all your friends. This is just the overall bankruptcy timeline. So we're going back from January 14th to April 2nd, which is when kind of things came to a head last week. So this goes all the way back to when Diamond filed for bankruptcy, the auction bidding timeline deadline. So that was when bids actually had to be in before the actual in-person auction. And then March 25th, Alliance winning the auction. There's a little red dot there that's an interesting number, March 26th, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Then we'll go to April 1st, where the debtors disputed the result, and April 2nd, a lawsuit was filed against Diamond. So there's a lot of really interesting things that happened, especially in the last, I would say, week, 10 days. Time's a flat circle, so I can't remember how long ago it was that they actually won. It's been just over 2 weeks since the auction ended. Exactly 2 weeks today, actually. It's Tuesday. So last week there was a lot of kind of stuff that happened. And I believe, there was a hearing yesterday that I think is still going on today.
That is correct. My understanding is that there was a hearing yesterday, and my understanding is that they're doing closing arguments today. We did actually send someone to that courthouse to try and see if we could see who was going in and out. She told me that A, she was not allowed in, and B, she wasn't allowed to take photos because it's a federal building, and C, they just really were generally unhappy that she was sitting in the lobby. So it did not go well.
Chris,
we
what have
tried.
you heard about all this stuff so far?
One, I think it goes back further than this.
Oh no, I can't.
There's some stuff that goes back pre-pandemic, but I also think I've covered these bankruptcy filings before in the auction process outside of comics, and when the highest bidder was named, I knew more than likely it'd be disputed. It's not just about like the money, whoever has the most money, because there's like what Image and others brought up, like whoever has the most money may not be in a position to pay back the debtors, which could also include members of the Geppy family. But because some of these bankruptcies, when a company is bought out, that money doesn't just immediately go to the debtors first, the unsecured debtors versus the secured debtors. So it's going to be a complicated thing. Like Adam and I will probably be talking about this at New York Comic Con in October. Like this is a story that goes back at least 2020 and probably go into 2026, 2027.
Yeah, I mean, there's been rumors since like 2018 that I know of about Diamond having some financial difficulties. So none of these stories are new.
Chris, I want to tag this, but just to kind of give the audience that I'm sure is living in this sort of generalized anxiety. How long do you think from where we stand? We're going to get into where we stand here in a little bit, but how long from where we stand do you think that there's resolution and Diamond becomes whatever its next iteration is? If you had to put a timeline on
it, based on similar court processes, we're April 8th right now. I don't think we'll know who is acquiring Diamond's assets till at least maybe May, unless just the courts really just have a hard decision. But the courts are probably going to be fact-finding to decide what to do that's in the best interest of the parties involved, which they'll won't weight equally because there's secured debtors versus unsecured debtors. For whatever, then it's once they know who's buying it, it's not like they just hand over the keys that next day. It's not that easy when you're buying an entire company, like, because they could decide to run that company as a subsidiary, the way Geppy Family Industries started that up before the pandemic, or they could decide to just dissolve it and take it into themselves, and then it'd be employee training and stuff like that. So I don't think whatever the next Diamond is, I don't think it'll be back to normal until 2026, 2027 at the earliest. Like there's going to be a lot of disruption. Like as the retailers here in the call, like there's publishers that are still with Diamond that have a really bad release date, like issues going on right now. Like I don't think that'll be resolved in the short term. Like short term meaning next 1 to 3 months. Like maybe 6 months, maybe, but it depends on who buys them and if they have the people that know how to run the workflow, the distribution system, and like if they decide to put the resources like into it. Like this isn't just a Diamond, like isn't like a turnkey business. So yeah, it's going to be a bit.
Yeah, no kidding. Awesome. So let's dig into what this narrative was. As we mentioned from the top, when Diamond filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, Brian and I actually came on live. It's our first, I think it was our second time being live, or first, whatever.
I think so.
Coming on, and we were able to talk about it then. I think we all were expecting something. We just didn't know when to expect it and what was going to happen. So it was announced that their intention was to restructure and sell off parts of that business. At that time, there was some hope that they were going to be able to do just that, like sell off maybe the more profitable bits like Alliance and Diamond UK, and maybe keep the comics distribution side. Quickly, that became obvious that was not what was going to happen. So these are, later on, we found out these are the people that were really owed the most money. Now, it should be noted that Penguin Random House and their $9 million was actually spread also over the publishers that Penguin Random House was representing. And we heard, there was a rumor that we heard that they were kicking that debt down to each one of those publishers. And those publishers include Marvel and IDW and I think Dark Horse. I don't remember the exact list of who was there then and who is there now, but so these are just the top 10 I think of those debtors. The list that we saw was 30 people long and included many comic publishers, but I think it's noteworthy as we dig into the rest of this narrative to see who is owed this money. Right, it's not just Standard Comics publishers, it's Disney Consumer Products, right? It's Todd McFarlane, it's big companies, Wizards of the Coast and their $1 million. This is not just these are big companies with lots of lawyers who are getting involved and being having a voice in saying which way direction this goes. Chris,
and
did
it's
you
also
hear
not non-comics companies like I think there's one called Fathom Logistics, who's a logistics company. There's a bunch of players outside of our traditional industry that are in here too.
Yeah, and I think number 11 was Microsoft. I'll give you an idea, right?
Yeah, because you got to forget, they're not just, Diamond doesn't just distribute comics, they distribute a lot of other stuff, and their SKUs, which is their individual items. You think for a Bandai, the SKU for an average Bandai item is probably much higher than the SKU for a Image Comics comic of $3.99, $4.99. SKU for that might be average might be 30 to 40, just guessing. So that can add up really, really quick. And there's also just different parts involved in terms of debting about paying, because there's payment terms. Like if I buy an Image comic on a Wednesday, Image doesn't get the money on Thursday. I believe Atom, I think it's like a 90-day process, maybe longer. So
yeah.
This probably accounts for at least a month. But I know of one publisher who does not want to be named that says that they've been owed money by Diamond since middle of last year. So this could be a year's worth of stuff, depending on what it is. Just depends 100%. On their individual payment terms, which may not be the same for every one of these vendors.
Oh, it's almost certainly not the same for every vendor. It's not even the same for every vendor that are comics, right? Yeah. Everybody had, their own negotiated terms with Diamond, and Diamond, famously did a lot of, they were, as we called them earlier on, the bank of comics, right? There was a whole lot of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul and back and forth. And so yeah, every single one of these people had their own agreement and their own risk that was associated with that relationship. So
it's interesting in this list to see things like Kin Mold, which is a mold making company, so probably related to the toy stuff. Right. And then you got Exceeding Partnerships, which is a staffing solution. So they provide staff, probably warehouse staff, which tends to have a high turnover and isn't always actually, a lot of them probably aren't even Diamond employees. They're these folks employees.
That was my my understanding was that their Memphis, their Olive Branch warehouse was mostly the line staff was all day workers that would come in for a day and be trained in the morning and be pulling comics and toys and whatnot by the afternoon.
For sure, yeah. I mean, that makes sense because there's probably 2 or 3 days a week where they need a lot of staff, and then the rest of the time they don't. So it makes some sense.
I just want to real quick before we leave this that subject. I just want to bring up Megan. Megan was the person who boldly went to the courthouse for us and sat in the lobby for the day. But she did work for Diamond for a while, so she's saying that some vendors even need to request a check each time, so it's not automatically sent out. So you had to invoice for that. So March 19th, 2025, we had the deadline for the bidders to come in and set themselves up to be in the running for this. And they had to show that they were not only did they have an interest in this, but that they had the ability the cash, or I guess in case of Alliance, the debt reserves in order to participate.
And they had to have a plan, I believe, too, for how to operate it going forward. So there was a plan. There was it was not just like you couldn't just come in and say, I want a bid. Paddle, please. Yeah, they were all fully vetted.
Can I get a number?
12. So they were vetted and ready to go.
Wonderful. Then March 24th and 25th, we had the auction proceedings here in NYC, and this took place in a law office that, again, turns out couldn't get into unless you actually had that paddle. Unfortunately, I heard from Heidi McDonald that she was not able to get in. And we hear that Alliance wins that majority bid. Now, this was a big shocker to many of us. That Alliance Entertainment was going to come in. I really honestly thought that Universal was the shoe-in, just having spoken to them. And I think last week, talked quite a bit about who is Alliance Entertainment, what could this mean? So this obviously was the big shocker, but I think that it wasn't entirely out of left field, because they are a huge entertainment distributor. They handle big media to big media companies. Chris, did this come as a shock to you, buddy?
Realistically, they were my top 3. I think it more depended on like that third bullet point you have of their credit terms to expand it. Like that automatically excluded some comics people that we know that some people would have speculated would have bought it.
Yeah,
just because that kind of credit is not easy to get, and especially the bank won't just be like, you have $50 million, we'll give you another $50 million, but the bank will look into your business things if you're adequately experienced to take over a business like this, and that really narrowed it down to these parties. I was looking to see if current and former Diamond employees and might try to assemble something, which has been done in the past, but then from talking to some of the people, I realized that would take a very strong personality and to organize that sort of thing, and that just wasn't physically possible during this time. Like, even if some of the employees involved might have known that bankruptcy was an option last year, like I think but like Alliance was going to be one of the big 3. It's just depending on their accounts and things like that.
I think the final purchase price was around $65 million. And then there was some stuff that happened afterwards as well.
I'm told that it came up to closer to 85 million.
85,
all in, right?
Yeah. Well done.
Shocking. And then,
speaking of shocking,
this is my favorite part about this whole story. And we were eventually going to have a slide about him, so I'm just going to talk about him here for a minute. There is a comic book retailer. One could call him a former comic book retailer. He owns a comic shop that doesn't sell new comics, right? He famously back in 2020 wrote a big open letter to Diamond and said, I'm no longer going to be selling new comics. I'm just going to be selling what I purchase secondhand. And he has a YouTube channel that he contributes to, and he's an interesting personality. Let's just put it that way. He's a fascinating guy. And one of the things that he did was the day after this thing was announced, I'm sure the day of, he immediately started trying to get Alliance chairman Bruce Ogilvie onto the show. And he did. He got him onto a YouTube show, which is crazy to me still to this day. So Ogilvie admits a ton of stuff on this video, which has since been taken down. I don't know anything about why it was taken down, or we could all speculate. But he admits that he had very limited knowledge of the comic book market. He did not have any sort of background on what it was that we do. In fact, many of the things that he said were focuses of his company seemed to be antithetical to the distribution of comics. He talked about how they needed to be getting $1, or is it 95 cents? I think he said
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
Each SKU, and each time, and that they're more interested in selling items where they take in $5 than they are $1. Right? He really focused on that. Low margin was not something that he was interested in. But he did, however, talk about wanting to retain Diamond staff. Very smart. I like a lot of those people. And integrating their systems into the systems that they had, and then kind of going through and evaluating the properties that were there, that maybe he wasn't expecting to have owned.
Like Free Comic Book Day, which he was kind of shocked that there was a free comic. He's like, Record Store Day is not free. You pay for the records. Free Comic Book Day free? What?
Yeah, exactly. Chris, you watched this, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I watched this pretty closely. Like Brian, the free comic book thing, I think, is the undervalued part of this. But again, it's not free. It's not like a Record Store Day. It's like it's based on the Baskin Robbins Free Scoop Day, where the company that pays for it is doing the marketing. But with Diamond is nobody's. I don't know. It's a marketing cost for everybody that's shared. But going back to that slide, it's and the podcast, like, not everyone needs to be classically trained in the job that they do to sometimes do a great job at the job they do. Like, we know people that are journalists on the internet that may not do it the way we want, but doesn't mean that if they have a curiosity, they can go out and find that thing. And I applaud Dennis for just, I don't know, being bold and having the tenacity to do it and get some sort of information out there. Like, but for the Alliance thing, like, that is the shape of publishing. That's why you see less magazines in stores and you see what's called bookazines, because they carry a higher price point, so they get higher value. If you at those same checkouts, like, your grocery store doesn't buy candy bars individually; they buy them by the case of 12. So there's a world in some places where somebody might consider, when retailers buy comics, they can't buy them individually. Maybe they have to buy them in packs of 12. Like, you have to order your Absolute Batman 8 in units of 10 or 12 or something like that, and they sell it to you as a package. And therefore
we're already seeing DC experiment with that, right? That we're seeing them experiment with bundles. We saw a Bad Idea experiment with bundles. It skews with the data, but I mean, the like metadata that we currently have. But there's no reason why we shouldn't be totally tweaking those kinds of things and trying that out, because you're right. Maybe the answer was we went to Alliance, and that ended up selling by the case or selling in bundles. Not the worst thing in the world.
Again, just one moment. I just need to do a little PSA. Just one sec. I'll be right back. Yeah, publishers, this is just for you. It's not even for the retailers. It's not for Adam. It's not for anyone else. Just for retailers. I love what you're doing with the bundles. I think it's fantastic. The SKU on those is not the SKU on the book. We do that. Bundle away. Make all the money you want to. Just the SKUs. Sorry, guys.
I completely get you there. The tracking of that must be horrendous.
Yeah, like, DC does it right. They put a different SKU on that for the A cover, and that's awesome. But some companies, I won't name any by name, have not done that and caused big problems. And now they're trying to undo those problems, and it's going to be really hard to undo. But yeah, just different SKU. Sorry.
Yeah. 100%.
My personal.
I appreciate that. All right. So the irony of all of this is that, as you pointed out, Dennis, I think, has done an amazing thing here, in that he seems to have, even though his day-to-day is not dependent on single issue comics, coming through new single issue comics, he seemingly has blown up this entire deal because of his citizen journalism. And I think, Chris, you're absolutely right. And I think he is to be applauded for bringing that out, because that does seem to have changed the trajectory of this deal and how it is going to continue to work.
And And I think the debtors may have been swayed from that conversation, because it was shortly after that they started raising concerns. I think having Diamond as a viable alternative to Lunar and PRH is a super important thing for a lot of these folks. There's a reason why many of them have not jumped ship, right? And they think this is the best home to be in, even if it is a little bit underwater right now.
Absolutely. Would you say, Chris, that you feel the same that I do, that that this felt like we were heading on a track, but the minute that interview happened, that we had a hard left turn?
Yeah, I think those kind of interviews are rare. I interviewed Steve Geppy before, and he this new person is much more honest and upfront, and I think he didn't know the comics industry, and that might have helped us to maybe he didn't know to maybe couch some of his words, and it was a pretty unvarnished, but realistically it was very truthful. Like, I believe what he says. Like, it seems very, very frank, and I think it helped people realize like how different this is. Like, the Diamond of this year isn't the Diamond of 2019, but I think people are hoping for some familiarity with what comes next, and especially those debtors. They're hoping to get their money back, because especially I know the bigger debtors are for these huge companies with stockholders, but I feel really bad for the publishers that specialize in creator-owned comics, that
100%.
those creators aren't getting paid for their books, presumably. The same way, Adam, how you mentioned Penguin on Random House is basically passing the cost down to their people they're representing. I don't know if other creator-owned publishers are doing the same, but I don't know why. It'd be a hard thing of if a publisher, say Image, because they were involved in this, don't get the money from Diamond. Does Image take it out of their bank account, which they may or may not have, to pay the comic creators, or do they tell the comic creators, hey, Diamond hasn't paid us, so we can't pay you, kind of thing? That's going to lead to very difficult circumstances for people.
Truly. Yeah, it's a very good note that at the end of the day, this particular shit tends to roll downhill, and down the bottom of that are two groups: the retailers and the creators. So you're absolutely right about that. So once again, out of that interview, we started seeing this sort of groundswell of concern, which leads us to the next moment. So
I think that was a Sunday, wasn't it? This was last Sunday, I want to say.
It was.
Yeah. I got a sudden flurry of texts from Adam. I was like, what? What?
So I think actually I'm going to rely on Chris in his understanding of this timeline. But my understanding of this is that we started to see some of these lawsuits, like Image Comics, coming in and saying, ho, 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 this is not a deal that we're going to agree to. This is not this. We have, our contract allows us to have some say in this, and we're not cool with how this is going. And then we hear that Universal and Ad Populum are getting together, and there's some sort of blockage for this. And then we see I don't know if this is the next slide or not, but then we see a countersuit from Alliance, in which we learn so much about how this went down. During the countersuit we got, and Rich did a fine job, if you're watching this, did a fine job of reporting that to make it all make sense.
It's so good. Like, it really is. The amount of legal stuff that he had to go through to figure all this out was pretty impressive.
To pull it out and tease it out and make it all digestible. Absolutely. Could not have done this without it. So Alliance releases this, a strong statement defending its position. And they said that their bid was sound, and that Diamond and was colluding with the debtors and with Universal and Ad Populum to essentially reverse what was decided in the court. Am I getting that right, Chris? Do you've been watching this?
There was a highest bid, But like we were saying earlier, it's not about all about the highest bid. It's about the terms. And I believe from the reading of the court, for the court's decision, which may not decide the high bid, it's about other factors, including paying off the secured debtors from that. And I think people are using the press, and the press is informing people to get decisions. But I think right now is that period where there's a lot of allegations and theories that are kind of clouding the waters a little bit about what's actually happening and what isn't. And not to say that anything anybody reported is true or untrue, but sometimes speculation can just be speculation. And I think everybody needs to be really, really clear about that. Like I remember there's something on the internet about, CNN, about how a fake news about tariffs like affected the stock market. I think now is the time where everything gets really, really confusing, and the sources people use for news, if they're not correct, could lead people down let's say casual people on the internet, but also business people, down some roads that could make things that are already complicated even more complicated, because there's a lot of unknowns, and there's a lot of this could go really, really bad, and it's already kind of pretty bad. And
is this
there's a lot of misinformation right now.
It feels like this is I'm not sure which. Is it possible you're alluding to either the conversation around the Dennis Barger interview, or B, the fact that Brian and I got so much from Bleeding Cool? Is that that's not what you're referring to?
Reading legal documents and translating them for layman's terms is really complicated.
Yeah, it is.
And even then, for experts, it's not this is definitely what it means. It's not equal sign like this legal thing means this. And I just advise everybody to be very, very cautious about where they go, and don't jump to conclusions unnecessarily. Like those conclusions that you're thinking about may be something to look into, but I'd just be very, very careful right now. Just
that's fair.
Things can get, I don't know. People can get worked up like on the internet for things that turn out not to be true.
Yeah.
Like we all know this, but like this is the part where things get really, really confusing, and it's up to the people involved in this, especially the debtors and the debtors that represent other people, because in some way, individual comic creators we all know and love are the debtors on here as well. Where like I think that list you showed, like it was mostly over $1 million each. Like there's debtors, comic creators that are $10,000-$20,000, which may not seem like a lot when you look at Bandai up there, but $10,000 to $20,000 could be a choice a comic creator makes of staying in comics or going to work in animation or something like that. But I'm getting on a sidetrack. There's a lot of confusion right now.
Yeah, there's publishers like Silver Sprocket that, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, I don't know, $70,000 or $80,000, but that's a significant amount for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like that could make or break their year, right? So yeah, absolutely. I want to give a little color to Ad Populum, because this is the first time we've really heard of them. They're a consumer's product conglomerate who has been kind of quietly acquiring a lot of brands like NECA, Rubies, WizKid, Kid Robot, like big stuff. And then last year, I think they acquired Party City's intellectual property and wholesale operations.
Yep.
So they've kind of come out of nowhere they've just like been gobbling up companies for the last 2 or 3 years. And they are also, I believe, a debtor to Diamond, as well as a bidder, which is Inception. So yeah, I think that's interesting too.
Great.
April 2nd. That's when the lawsuits happened.
Right. So that brings us pretty much. Well, no, not even close. All right. We got that's
Monday and Tuesday.
We had out. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So Alliance sues DCD and its affiliates, accusing them of violating the auction agreement and attempting to reverse or invalidate Alliance's winning bid. legal proceedings begin that may delay the closing or reopen the auction under challenge. We've covered a lot of this already, but that's just it, is that they feel as though they won this fair and square, and now somebody's saying no, it's more than just how much you're going to pay, right? As to Chris's point earlier. Yeah. Which leads us to this week, where I don't believe we have a slide on this, but what we've learned is very little. There was a hearing yesterday and we're getting closing arguments again today. And it may be a while before we know anything about what's coming out of this. And I think one of the big pieces that we are taking away from all of this is be entertained by it. Enjoy the kind of drama of this. If you're not embroiled in it, if you are not one of the people that is owed so much money that it is going to put you out of business, I would say just continue to do your work and enjoy this drama as it is, because we need you focused on the business that you're doing. Right. We need Brian focused on his, and Chris focused on understanding this well enough to bring us the information that we need. So I think that we need you running your store. And I think one of the things that we do on our big takeaways, Brian, if you want to take this over.
Yeah, it's kind of the same stuff that we have said. I think this is like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. Know your numbers. So know what is bringing what into your business, and keep on diversifying your suppliers. If you don't have a Lunar and Penguin Random House account, you needed it yesterday, so get it today. Monitor your suppliers and direct to retail programs. Expand your product diversity. So look for things that are not going to be subjected to the tariffs, like good things are secondhand products, that back issues or old toys and stuff like that you can get relatively low cost and not be tariff dependent. Adjust your pricing strategies. So look at your margins. Don't alienate your customers, but you can do that by communicating transparently with them. Let them know what's going on. Everybody knows about all the tariff issues. Let them know about the diamond issues. Don't hide the fact. I didn't get a diamond order last week because apparently it got left on a dock somewhere, which means they probably didn't pay their CanPar bill that week, because that's happened before. But I just addressed it with my customers and said, hey, we didn't get diamond, so you're not going to get a couple things this week. They'll be in next week. And embrace pre-order culture, build recurring revenue, and mitigate inventory risk. So every other industry is doing pre-orders. If you want to get a record on day one these days, you have to pre-order that record and prepay for it at the record store. We as an industry need to embrace more of that stuff. We're pretty close to the end, bud.
We're getting there. We had a couple more things we wanted to talk about here, but I did want to jump out and say Jeremy, who runs Titan Comics in Dallas, Texas, saying the diamond is such a small piece of comics distribution these days that it doesn't really affect his business, and that's 100%. A wonderful place to be in. Like, we're now to a place where you can decentralize your risk.
Yeah,
you don't really have to be dependent on one source, and I think that's a truly wonderful part about where we are, is that even if all of this completely implodes, there was a time it would have gone away. Yes, it is.
I like how you get, in my opinion. I like that. That's nice. That's nice. Good job. I like it.
It's something interesting to bring up. Brian, could you bring up that one slide with like the debtors? Is that possible?
Yeah, sure. Just give me 1 second just to get back to it.
How we'd like to think that most stores diversify their suppliers. Maybe not when Lunar and PRH came about, but now. But look at this, like, not all of that Penguin Random House $9.2 million is Penguin Random House, the publisher, going to Diamond. A lot of that could be retailers basically ordering PRH stuff through Diamond, so they don't have to deal with as many distributors. Because I know we all have only so many hours a day, and there's some comic stores that use Diamond, so they don't have to talk to Diamond and PRH and Lunar and things like this. So I'm worried. I'm concerned about how much of that is people buying PRH distributed comics through Diamond, and hopefully they're all getting accounts for PRH. But I'm just like a breakdown of that Penguin of Random House number would be stories for a month for this, or for weeks of this show. If we could figure out that, I think that is the thing, because so many of us are used to the diamond. You can't call it a monopoly, but diamond was the one place. And I think even though a lot of us have moved on from that, I bet there's a significant amount of comic shops, especially smaller 1-2 person like operations, that diamond was their main supplier.
Yeah, there was a ton. My former business partner, the reason he got out of it was because he didn't want to deal with all the other distributors. So he decided to retire in January because he's like, this is too complicated now.
Yep.
And I don't find it that complicated. I use the system. It's real easy.
Well, it was a simple system. You ordered directly from one, and you took from this person and you gave it to one person. It was simple. Now that simplicity is gotten to a place where we need people like Brian to build out these systems that are simplifying. And once again, I will give my plug to Manage Comics and friend of the show, Comic Shop Assistant, and even Comic Hub, right? 3 software as a solutions for your comic shop that allow you to simplify. Their goal is to simplify your day-to-day. Like if every time something happens at one of these distributors that makes it more complicated for everyone, if that always affects you, Brian's not doing his job. Right. The thing that he gets paid for is to simplify all of this workflow for you. So is it ever simple? No, because otherwise everybody do it, but it is simpler. So there you go. Christina Strong, Managed Comics is a workhorse. There you go. All right.
Thank you, Christina.
Something, that's for sure. Thanks, Christina. Are you ready to talk about what you're doing next?
I am. I don't think we have all the full slides, and that's on my bad for not getting it to you, but we'll push them out through social later today. We are doing something for the first time with our friends at Read Pop, the parent company of Popverse, and it's therefore the people who pay Chris's paycheck. We're doing a little summit, we're calling it. It is going to be a series of panels that are during Friday, yes, at C2E2 this year, where we're talking about comics industry issues. We're discussing distribution. We have one panel with members of lots of different sectors called the past, present, and future of comics distribution, where we will make this up as we go along. Hey, here it comes. Thank you for grabbing that off the socials. We're going to do, I can't even read my own graphic here. Oh yes, the comic book bestsellers. We're going to work on, we're going to show you some of the behind the scenes data that we've been collecting from comic shops, including those through Managed Comics, and other places, and telling you what we have learned from studying that data. We're going to talk about the life cycle of a comic book. So beginning with editors and creators all pushed into a room and drawing on a whiteboard. What are the processes that take that idea all the way to your store shelves and into the bag at the end of that transition? We did this at Comics Pro, and it was incredible. I learned so much dealing with the people on this particular panel. Why print will save digital. Chris is going to be on this one. We're going to talk about why digital magazines like ZCN and pull it out here, the Comics Courier, why they are bringing things like bringing journalism back to print, and how that supports the overall look at journalism and overall the comics industry. So why we're going backwards, as it were, to print in a world where everybody else is rushing forwards into digital. We're talking about why comics is a little bit different. And then on Saturday, then we're talking about the past, present, and future of comics distribution. We're going to be working with our friends from Lunar and a few other places where we're going to discuss what we just discussed here and speculate as to what the future of this industry looks like. I don't even remember what was that next slide was. Oh yes, the future of comics and hacking. That's right. The future is a comic book that we've been working on for quite a while, with a partner and client called Recca Comics, a division of Black Hills Information Security, and we are producing a comic that we're producing with Fred Van Lente writing and Inio Buffy on illustrations, and this incredible Jay Lee cover on issue 1. We're going to be talking about that and talking to some honest to God hackers. So we're going to be discussing what comics looks like, what that kind of comic looks like, and how it will work well in your comic shop and beyond. Yes, we did get the preview items out to a few of you. If you haven't gotten a preview comic, please reach out to me at info@pranadm.com, and we'll make sure to get you on that list. So that's it. We're gonna also, I don't even know if we have a slide up, but we are having a party. Is that on this? No, maybe not. We are having a party with our good friends at Goblin Market on Friday night. So come by and hang out. Let's talk comics and drink beer. Last time we did this last year, we did this for the first time, and Brian changed clothes.
We're not talking about this
with Avi Ehrlich from Silver Sprocket, and watching Brian trying to get into that jumpsuit was the highlight of my year. So
it was an old college party trick I used to do, putting on other people's clothes. I just didn't think I'd be doing it at 50 still. And Avi's about 6 inches shorter than me, so that was quite.
And maybe he got I don't know, maybe he's a couple pounds lighter than you are. So
he's probably an entire him lighter than me.
It was a good time. And if you've never been to the Goblin Market, I mean, in a city like Chicago, where they have amazing comic shops. I mean, you've got Challengers, you've got Chicago Comics, you've got oh gosh, you guys help me out. There's Quimby,
Graham Crackers.
Jesus, Graham Crackers, the biggest
Howling
chain
Pages,
of comics,
which I love, is a kind of art focused store. Zombie Unicorn, who's a managed comic store. Yeah. Oh yeah, is in Skokie, which is just outside of Chicago, but it's like maybe a 15-20 minute drive away.
In a town
so
chock to block full of incredible comic shops. I will say Goblin Market, one of my favorite I've ever been in.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
A immaculate, gorgeous store. And you absolutely, yes, Alley Cat, also great.
Dark Tower. Oh my gosh.
Tower.
All the things that
Yeah. All right. Yes. Yes. Lots of great comic shops in Chicago. So go on a tour this week, but also come Friday night, have a beer with us. Let's talk comics, and we'll try on each other's clothes in Brian's honor.
It's also in a really great area of the city too. Like it's a really cool area to be in. So yeah, it's
wonderful.
Great place.
Chris, what's your first stop when you get to Chicago?
Flying in Wednesday, hotel, drop off stuff. Probably get a haircut. Aiming to go to Pequod's at least once during the weekend. I think I'll probably go to Challengers. Probably, I want to say Thursday, but it may just end up being sometime on like the weekend. But then pretty much that I'll be at the McCormick place Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah, somebody I was telling them was going to Chicago once, and they said, "Oh, where are you going to go? You're going to get some deep dish or something?" I'm like, there's probably months of my life at this point, cumulatively, that I have been to Chicago and never left the McCormick Center. You just go from your room down to the lobby, over to the convention center. You stay there all day. Then you go to the restaurant in the lobby, and then you go to the bar in the lobby, and then you go to bed. Anyway, yes, it's easy to never leave the McCormick Center. Yeah.
I like for that, when you leave the convention center, you have to walk through the restaurant. So even if you don't want to stop and meet people, you can go through and say you've been to the party, and then you can go crash at your hotel room. And
that's true.
Perfectly fine.
That's very, very true. Yeah. Awesome. Well, did we get through all of our slides, Brian? Did we hit all?
Yeah, we did. I'm just trying to see if is there anything left? I think that was. We forgot this.
Oh, yes. Again, please do get on the list. Bullet. I work on it hard every week, and it's always, is anybody reading this? And this week I'm going to have to do it while at the convention center. So, please, please check it out. We do enjoy putting this thing together, and it's only when you participate that we're able to, really hopefully make some change.
Will the invite to the party be in the bullet this week?
It will definitely be in the bullet this week. In fact, we may have to get it out early just to make sure that you get the invite to the party.
Sign up, folks.
Sign up now, and I'll make sure that you get an invite to that party. Thank you, Christina, for signing up. Absolutely. Appreciate you. Awesome. So, are there any, if I'll put this out to we don't dodge the bullet. Thank you, guys.
They were talking about the future is the preview. This is the Kickstarter edition. Right. Blackbird was talking about, they got the preview items. Very nice. We
did print a ton of those so that we could send them out as previews for everybody, because the point of that particular campaign Kickstarter was really just a proof of concept. Would people be interested in a comic book about hacking? And so far, so good, man.
It turns out the answer was resoundingly yes, based on the results of the Kickstarter.
Well, the Kickstarter did really well, and the early numbers that we're seeing are also really, really good, considering that we're going to make the first, what did we say, the first 6 issues returnable, by affidavit returns. So thank you, Tommy. Beautiful book, really nice package. As somebody who spent a lot of time on that package, Ryan Hughes is the designer on that book. It was really, I don't know, we're really proud of it.
Adam, will you have copies of that at C2E2?
You bet, buddy. I'll bring some. Yeah,
it's just on my store. The future is right here.
Oh, look at that!
So if you're a managed comics store, you can have people subscribe to it right through. The FOC is the end of the month. So look at my subscriptions. I've already got a pull on it. So yeah, the first 2 issues are up here. So yeah.
And his pricing is Canadian, which is obviously wrong. Yeah. But US pricing is $13.37, which is hacker code for elite. And if that's for issue 1, and then issues 2 and beyond are going to be $4.04. So
there you go. There's a US
challengers. Look at you guys. Oh, there we go. So sexy. Oh my gosh. Excellent. Oh, guys, I saw a Paul Pope cover come in this week. I cannot wait to show it.
Did you?
Oh my gosh. The list of cover artists that we're getting is beyond I don't know. It's beyond what I imagined that we were going to get. So we're going to be showing off Mike Allred. We're going to be showing off Paul Pope soon. There are people I can't talk about yet that we're going to be showing off. It's really, really, really wonderful. Yeah, any other questions from the chat? We would love to manage to talk about them a little bit here to keep me from prattling on, because we are right here at the end. And I know that our friends of the experience are moving on to some other quality programming. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Chris, for being here. You, as always, you are a fount of knowledge, and I'm looking forward to seeing you, and we'll go have some deep dish pizza together here.
Where should people find you, Chris?
I will be pretty much roaming the show floor all 3 days. Popverse will have a Superfan lounge for members all 3 days. It'll be on the map for our super fans. I'll be in there sometimes, but you'll probably find me on some of Adam's panels, and I'm moderating a Marvel Matters panel on Saturday.
Awesome. And where can they find you on the Inters tubes?
Oh, thank you. The best place to go is thepopverse.com. That's where I am pretty much 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. Especially this week, we're launching a comics column by me in May. I think I'm announcing that here, where we write about comics, but I'm trying to write about it in a more focused way, taking some thoughts that I had with Tom Spurgeon like years ago and putting it into that. This won't be me trying to imitate Tom Spurgeon, but just trying to, for everything that's written on the internet about comics, I want to figure out what's not being written about, but that a lot of people want to read, and I want to put that out there.
Excellent. Awesome. Looking forward to that. Brian, where do people find you?
ManageComics.com. On all the socials, you'll find me at Manage Comics. And yeah, I'm doing bi-weekly webinars now. So next Thursday will be our next webinar. And I may resurrect Meanwhile at Manage Comics. I don't know. I'm already doing a weekly podcast. I don't know if I can fit another one in.
Once again, my name is Atom Freeman. I'm Adam Bang Freeman on many of the socials, but really find me at pranadm.com and find me right here. We're going to be back here in this spot at 2:00 Eastern next week. And every Tuesday morning, we drop a podcast where I get to interview the biggest and brightest of the comics industry, the people behind the scenes. We get to know, the tips and tricks that made their business or career in comics work so that you can use it for yours. So please do subscribe. Please do mash buttons, hit bells, make sure that you're, pushing us up on the algo, because we really do appreciate your support. And really enjoy bringing you this stuff, because this is all we really know how to talk about. It's really kind of pathetic. All right. Excellent. Well, I think we're out of here. Producer Kyle, thank you, buddy, for the time. And we will all say namaste, y'all.
Namaste.
Namaste.